How you define is there a difference between modernization and urbanization? So if I say rural areas are now not necessarily they require urbanization, they require digitalization, they require modernization, but not urbanization. So what is modernization? You agree you are all modern people? You're not modern people. You're not modern? Oh, you are modern. Fine. Or you are pre-modern, proto-modern. So you can be pre-modern, proto-modern, right? Ortho-modern, or you can be post-modern, right? So let us find out what kind of modern you are. How do you interpret this diagram? Dev, Anshu. Huh? So what do you conclude by seeing this diagram? है थोड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग इतना बोझ क्यों है तुम्हारे? यू आर टेकन अ बैगेज. घर वाले ने मना किया अंदर मत आना घर में जब तक बंद ना जाओ. Dice, okay, with a number 1. But it doesn't look like dice, it's a plain figure. Dice is always a solid figure.
The concentration of power.
Correct. Okay. 1, good interpretation, concentration of power. So if you're depicting a political system this way, right, you're trying to depict the nature of political system, let us say by this. Right. Any other interpretation? Anybody has studied particle in a box theorem or particle in a box problem in engineering physics? Right? Without qualifying engineering physics, you became engineers. And India has progressed amazingly. Nucleus of an atom, okay. Yes, that is also acceptable. Correct. Top of a pyramid, correct. सही है. Right? But your top view होगा इंजीनियरिंग ड्राइंग में. यस, वी यूज टू इंटरप्रेट कि भाई सरदार जी कैसे लगेंगे टॉप व्यू में. पॉइंट. ओके. एनीथिंग एल्स? लेट अस से I want to, or I will conclude that it depicts racial exploitation. Can you interpret? It depicts racial exploitation, racial discrimination. Right? So if I say the white suffocates the black, for example. Right? This has been a painting by one of the youngest black painter in America. He was a postmodern painter. He died at the age of 33, but very popular. So you have one diagram. You can interpret this in multiple ways, right? And whatever interpretation you have made, that is all correct. We cannot evaluate it that it is correct or incorrect. Why? Because your interpretation exhibits your understanding, your thought process. And you have a complete right over your thought process. But exam doesn't work that way. So ye kya hai? Whatever you have interpreted, multiple interpretation, that is postmodernism. That is postmodern theory, which says it is up to you how you interpret something. Globalization is good, globalization is bad. Both are acceptable. Understanding? There may be one third approach also. That is also acceptable. When you are modern, right? When you are modern, you will be concluding a similar, or there will be a similar judgment made by all of you. That is modernity. Modernity is scientific understanding. When it is scientific, it is universal. Taylor, Fayol, Gulick, Arvik, how did they interpret the industrial development? in one particular way. Okay, they wanted to find the one best way. When it was one best way, it means it was only one interpretation. So being modern is being scientific, being rational, and ultimately having one single conclusion, which is universally acceptable. Because it is universally acceptable, it is considered to be truth. Because you also agree to that, I also agree to that, everybody agrees to that, and so we say this is truth. But it is not truth. It is only a fact. There is a difference between fact and truth. So if you are modern people, you can also say that we are modern. And why we are modern? Because we are scientific, we are rational. Right? But are we urban? Now that is a different question. So urbanization, right, may be a consequence of economic development, or urbanization may create economic development. So economic growth or development can be a reason for urbanization. It can also be a consequence of urbanization. So you can say modernization is a more broader term. Urbanization is one of the aspects of modernization. So when you have more urban centers, your potential for modernization is higher, because then you can think more rationally. Your more population can be engaged in a scientific manner. So when you have more of industrial development, or for that matter, urban growth centers, then your tendency for modernization will increase. So modernization comes with values. Urbanization comes with physical and tangible changes. Ultimately, उसमें values हैं, right? But initially, when urbanization started, it comes with certain physical, tangible, quantitative changes which you witness. Maybe industrialization, maybe urban development complexes, maybe urban housing schemes, roads, transport, infrastructure. You start witnessing all this. So once this is complete, now this system will work only based on certain values, because this system cannot sustain if those values are not there. So if Taylor's philosophy, if it was not in sync with industrialization, it would have never survived as a theory. Why? Because it was not going to give benefit to the growth of industries. So Taylor became so popular because his ideas were very much in sync, in tune with industrialization. They were benefiting industrialization. If he was talking about something totally against the industrialization, nobody would have accepted it. Folly. That is why Folly became redundant in those times, because her ideas were not necessarily useful for industrialization. So your Taylor, Fayol, Gully, Karvik all became popular because that was the phase where industrialization wanted to, or governments wanted to promote industrialization, industrial growth, and these theories somewhere supported it also and promoted it also. So urban development or rural development today may not be focusing on urbanization, but it will be focusing on modernization. That's a big logic, right? So we do not want just urbanization, we want more of modernization. Modernization will include a lot of value changes, cultural changes. Patriarchal mindset should change. Women should have more role in the economic activities, right? Women can be taken as the decision maker in the house. Hindu Marriage Act, 1956, 56, amended in 2005. And likewise, so they have recognized that under Hindu Marriage Act now, women will also be treated as karta of the family. She can make decisions. So when you think that this value systems will change, then modernization will happen. So in villages or rural areas, even without urbanization, modernization can happen. So your Adarsh Gram Yojana, is it about urbanization? No. It is about modernization. Independence of rural areas, villages, making them self-sufficient, making them technologically capable, but not necessarily urban.